Hi, this is Vishal. We talked last time about the details in terms of registration, admission, discharge, transfer, OP billing, IT billing, elements of doctor payout and all. Today we will talk about much more important in terms of the losses in the organization and as complex in terms of the number of parties involved in the business process. What we are talking about is material management, both in terms of consumables as well as for pharmacy items. Now, we briefly touched upon last time how the billing part of consumables and pharmacy are done to make sure that the outpatient bills go correctly, or for inpatient there is concurrent billing, so that as and when the pharmacy items are issued from the patient's data, the charge slip keeps on updating, and at any point of time we can find out how much of material is consumed there. Today what we will be spending much more time on is the other key processes rather than just the patient issue element, but elements of procurement, elements of stock management, and elements of issue including to that which we are doing to the department. Other aspects of vendor payments, how does the ecosystem get working and all, we will be working briefly. Before we go into the product demo, let's spend a minute to refresh the business processes which come into this kind of hospital and which are largely associated with what we are talking about in 6 key issues here. How is a material organized, or if I could say Calpol 3.2 is a product being stored. How do we know that it's a paracetamol? Or how do we know that it's manufactured by, say, Ranbaxy? Or how do you know whether it is something which I have to bill for, or whether it will be going to the patient directly, or will it go to the ward? Or it's something like a Dettol which you never bill to the patient but you still need it for running the hospital? Or it's something like stationery which has nothing to do with the patient's care but still is needed for the operation. So let's spend around 10 minutes next to go through each of these 5 issues, where how do you organize the material, how do you classify the material, how do you do a budgeting around material consumption. We'll talk about a bit about the 3 key steps of material management, which includes pharmacy of course. How do you manage the purchase affairs, how do you manage the stock affairs, and how do you manage the consumption part of it. And then for each of the 3 we'll talk about the steps which broadly get into the picture, and then we'll mimic it in terms of the product per se. So purchase will have how do you purchase the material types like stationery versus something like gamma camera, which is a capital equipment, and so on and so forth. Before we go any further, let's spend about a minute to go into that any material in the hospital has at least these 3 key flags that allow us to strategize or plan our products much better. We'll talk about the last 2 in a minute, but essentially any material could be based on their material characteristics such as material category. A category for which all are gases, all are medical consumables, are OT consumables, daycare consumables, investigation consumables such as ultrasound jelly, X-ray films, etc., capital items and all. Now, what's important that these nomenclature may differ side by side. Every hospital likes to write a different category for it, but the list of items remain the same. And hence, the categorization that goes in Charas will move in the same direction as we have talked about. The other important part which comes a level below in terms of material category, the moment we say it is a material category, it's a surgical item, we know Vicryl, which is the sutures that is used for stitching in the surgery, surgical gloves, balloon catheters, paracetamol, which is the material type may be paracetamol or the generic name of the drug, but essentially these are all antidepressants or anti-emetics or antibiotics. So where I'm trying to say that the material category in pharmacy may be defined as antibiotics, while the generic name may come as a material price. And the third part, which is essentially, there are three classifications here. Any material based on the way we build it or we consume it has three attributes to it, whether it's a direct material, an indirect material, or an overhead material. A direct material is something which you bill to patient directly. A paracetamol, a stent, a glove, a catheter. All of these items you will see in the patient bill, which is charged to the patient directly. In fact, 99% of your pharmacy items, whether it's a drug or whether it's an injection or whether it's a tablet, you bill it to the patient. And that is why 99% of those items are direct materials. There are indirect materials which you do not put in the patient's bill, but you use those materials for treating the patient. Things like cotton gauze. So the process would be dressing. Things like X-ray film, the process would be X-ray. So in the patient's bill, the process would be of the surface that will appear is large dressing, small dressing, burn dressing, those kind of stuff. Or the X-ray of hip joint, X-ray of knee, X-ray of bone marrow, or something like that will come in. But the consumable goes into rendering that service. That particular consumable typically would be called indirect material price. A very good generic example of that will be all lab consumables. The lab consumables, they come in kits. They come in elements like cuvette cartridge. They come in terms of CBC kit. Now you don't charge the patient for material used for that investigation. Good 99% of the material that you are seeing in the lab would be an indirect material where a service is rendered but the charges are put on the backside. The third, which are not really patient consumables but what we call is as hospital consumables, are items which you do not attribute to a patient's service. Patient bed, furniture, things like biohazard bags, Nirma, battery cells, printer cartridges. Now these things you need to run the hospital, but you cannot, and at concept level you can say that if I have 10,000 patients versus 20,000 patients, the consumption will be higher. But you cannot attribute it to a particular patient service. So these three levels of classification in terms of usage type, in terms of material type, and in terms of material category, classify a material uniquely. So when I'm talking about a Vicryl 2, 3, 4, 5, I know that the material category would be surgical items, the material type would be sutures and Vicryl, the usage type will be direct material. The other two flags are very simple in the NDF point of language, but it's very, very useful in terms of the inventory management policies and the procurement policies of the hospital. Our VED flag is associated with whether the item is a vital item, essential item, or a desirable to keep stock. And it's classified based on the unpredictability in terms of supply market complexity and in terms of business impact. So if I have a stock out of, say, cotton, I will be not able to do dressing for some time, but I can still go out and buy some cotton from a shop next door. So I don't really, my business is not even stopped at some level. But if you talk about something like a clothing which is being purchased on a daily basis, you do not have a stock out on those items. Or a stent because of the surgery can stop. So these may become a vital item. So every hospital classifies items based on their specialty, based on their strategies, or what should be a vital item, essential item, desirable item. In Charak, for simplicity's sake, what we have done is all the fast-moving items which are being consumed on a daily basis or on a frequent basis, they come into a vital category, and those items which are purchased one-off, we have kept it as a desirable category. But we understand that there is a lot more subjectivity to them. Things like snake poison. If you have an antidote to that snake poison, that is something which is a vital drug, but it may be purchased 1 in 6 months. So that does not make it as a non-vital drug. So those subjectivity we have to be worried about. The simpler part is the VED flag, the ABC flag, where it just is a mathematical number if you go from terms of how much is being spent and thus you do an 80-20 rule to it. But essentially where it becomes slightly more useful is if I were to control my purchases, if I have to control my consumption, if I have to control my wastages, possibly I will focus on A category items more than anything else. So it's not just important to how you do an ABC classification, but where all does the ABC flag appear in the product stream, so that the decision maker can take a conscious decision that these things are A category items, so I should purchase less, or I should at least ask to negotiate a better rate, and for C category items I should not break my head and so on and so forth. So this is how we are classifying the material, any material, whether it's pharmacy or practical goods or those things which are purchased in the hospital. And the other bit is in terms of how do you define a consuming department and how does it different from a store and sub-store. Very simple. In the product chart, wherever you are maintaining the stock and you are able to see a stock report, you are able to manage inventory, you are able to manage sales and all, it's a store. So every item which is kept in the store is having 100% visibility in chart. But the moment you go to a department, which could be examples like, okay, let me I don't have examples I to talk about, but if you talk about things like medicine, OPD, casualty, NICU, front desk, MRD, CRO, billing area, all of these are departments. In a billing area, if you are consuming a stationary item, or you are consuming, printer cartridges, it does not go as a sale to a patient. It is being consumed by the department to render services to the patient. But if you are talking about a OT sub-store where they are keeping a stock of 20 drugs and 30 surgical items, the purpose is that it should not get delayed in terms of bigger processes when we are selling it to the patient. A main store and sub-store differentiates over a very simple concept whether the vendor GRN, good receipt note, can be made in the store or not. So if a vendor is delivering in a store, it's the main store. If it's not, it's a sub-store. However, for practical purposes within the hospital, all sub-stores and the main store can transfer items from one place to the other to each other. So you can transfer from one sub-store to the other sub-store directly, or you can get and eventually issue it to either a patient or to a vendor or to a department. Without going much into the details which we will be talking about in the product, but let's understand that every material management practice has essentially a stock register at the backbone of it. If you go to the balance sheet or if you talk to your cost accounting people, they'll always talk about debit credit in terms of how the P&L or the ledger entries are managed. If you go to the material manager, he will talk about the stock register. A stock register simply means every transaction that happens in the hospital, it has to have associated entry in that register which says either it is issued or it is returned, it is received from outside, or it has been transferred and so on and so forth. So if you quickly look into some of the quick entries in Charak, most of the entries that happen in Charak are essentially these 6 kinds. There are a few more variations, we'll talk a bit later, but RCP is all those transactions in which a vendor is delivering a material. And hence, you will see a GRN, the moment a GRN is made, if you go and see the stock register, there is an RCP entry. Similarly, if there is a material which is issued either to a patient or to a department, it is an ISN. It's called issued from the hospital. In fact, the other one which is right now nothing in this category, what we have to stick is the called TRS. Essentially, transfer, where this is a double entry transaction. So it could be a transfer positive and transfer negative. So if I'm transferring from one store to another store, which could be a main store, a sub store. So my stock comes down and the stock in the other store goes up. So RCP, ISS are single entry transactions. TRF is a double entry transaction. The other four that you are seeing are fairly typical one entry transactions, which is less used than anywhere else. What we call is an ISR. You have issued it to a patient or to a department. They did not need it and hence they have returned it back. So now your stock will go up. In an RCP the stock goes up, in an ISS the stock comes down. But if you are doing an ISR, the stock will go up. You are receiving the material. Similarly, there is an EXP in which the items are expiring, in which case the stock will come down. The other more important typical transaction which people do not handle it explicitly is VAR, that's a variance entry. Sometimes saline bottles break. It has not been issued, it has not been received, but the stock has to come down. Sometimes there are 5 items which are lying in a corner which I have not accounted for in my stock audit, and it has to be added positive to my stock so that my stock is physically matching. So variance again could be positive or negative, but again it's a single line entry. So based on these broad material management concepts, I won't go into these details. We'll have time to share these process maps at a later stage. Let's quickly talk about how the hospital will be done in these kind of processes. Let's come to our Mycharif itself. And let's talk of this typical, in fact before we go into this, let's talk about something very simple. What are the item attributes that we mentioned? You'll have to bear with me on terms of the performance. Essentially the product right now is a bit slow on my machine. So as we define in terms of pharmacy and material, essentially pharmacy and material are kept separate because different teams manage it. And in the case of material, batch number, expiry date are not as important as in pharmacy. Rate lists are slightly more flexible. Things like furniture, civil items, cement and tube lights, bulbs, all of that go into material. While in pharmacy it's more of patient care, drugs and all. So hospitals like to keep them separate, but in terms of concepts, whatever we talked about still holds good and will be relevant. So, a pharmacy item as we have seen, let's talk about something very common like abdominal belt large. This is a good example. So, the item name is abdominal binder saver medium. There is an item code that they define. The material group could be with the injection, ointment, syrup, tablet and so on and so forth. Item categories that you use are containers, drops, fluids, gloves, masks, injections, ointments, so on and so forth. And this will be different from materials, of course. This is also important for the units. You will see that you may sell the item on per drug, but the vendor may give the item in terms of a carton of 20 or a pack of 50 or a pair and so on and so forth. So the units are important. Here you are seeing some very standard generic names in terms of abdominal binder. It's not really a direct pharmacy generic drug. But if you talk about things like azithromycin, things like amino acid, amitaxin and all of these are fairly important generic items to which an item will be mapped to. We'll talk about the reorder levels separately, but this is slightly important that there are default PO quantity whenever I'm ordering. Normally we order from this quantity. Manufacturers in the healthcare business is also important, especially if you are trying to buy from branded items. the ABCDED usage flags we already talked about. This is how we are assigning suppliers, because one supplier can supply, 10 items, or one item can be supplied by 10 or more suppliers. So this kind of pharmacy item that I was showing you goes into this. So let's take an item, that's a tumble belt, and assign some vendors. Units. Having seen the material characteristics and what kind of attributes does that material have, let's talk through quick steps on what exactly happens within a hospital. Typically, a ward or a department or a substore, as I said, might require some material based on their reorder level, or the thing could have gone short. Let's create a small requisition from this hospital substore and try to get some items around it. But essentially, each requisition has these kind of attributes. It talks about what are the materials that they want, how much is it required. It gives a statistic in that kind of information. How much was the last month's consumption? What was the last purchase? I know whether it's an expensive item, not expensive item and all. And a category flag, I said, ABC analysis, AB analysis, in terms of whether if this item goes short, should I get worried or not. The received quantity in the beginning is actually zero. The one things that you're seeing on the left side are actually a search value, and then you can look for per month kind of acquisition. The status talks about if all the items have been received, and as you're seeing, some items have not been received, or there are certain items for which the received quantity has not been acknowledged. We'll take through this in a moment. So for example, you can also see elements like the life cycle of a requisition, when was it created, who asked for approval, who approved, and so on and so forth. Come down, you'll be seeing elements like sent for approval, approved, modified. Now by doing this, in fact 99% of the hospital countries which are following the workflow actually have small requisition forms in which any department or a substore needs items from the main, fills up that requisition form, it reaches the CEO of the hospital to say whether this requisition is valid or required or not. It has to be forwarded to the nursing superintendent, or at least you will have to look whether this item is required or not. Now what we have been able to do is to ensure that the approved process is online, and hence we are able to access who approved it, when was it approved, and so on and so forth. And at any point of time, people can come back and look at it and show me all search, disposable syringes, all the items from the department, or you can find dates. Where I'm trying to get into that, you can find out how, when did you ask for this item last? And then the CEO can say that okay, last week itself I've sent you so much of Chronic, so much of Tacrocin, how is it that you don't have it? So those kind of workflow come into the picture. When this requisition reaches the main pharmacy or the main store, or whichever sub-store it has been placed at, then they are able to find out what are the multiple transactions that are required and whether the item is there in the stock or not. They are able to push it accordingly. So in terms of transfer to store transaction that you see, typically ask, okay, which store are you sending the material from? say I am from the pharmacy sales counter. Here, the pharmacist or whoever is the store in charge of that sales counter looks for all the open requisitions in that hospital, or looks for those items which have not been delivered yet. Yes, they don't have an open. At times, the transfers could be without a requisition as well. That is something in a simpler hospital. So based on reorder levels or the store manager's decision that these are the items which I don't have it right now, but whenever I get, I'll share. Requisition is one of the standard processes, but will not always be the only process for sending a material. So if you look for this item, say this item requisition, but has not been sent yet. All the three items have been brought to the order. So now I know that Niku Pharmacy Store has requested for these items. I have those items in my stock, so so after transferring, this is how much stock I will have. So I can come back and say, okay, this is what I want to transfer, look for my stock. If there are items which I don't want to transfer instead of three, I will transfer only two if I don't have the item in the stock. And that is sufficient, that is an acceptable workflow, provided you don't have the items in the stock. Thereafter, once the transfer is paid, you can send to the store. The important workflow here is important that the moment you send to the store, the expected consumer or the nurse or whoever has asked for the item is supposed to say that yes, I received one of each or two of them. Now because this acknowledged step is important, otherwise this store will not be allowed to sell this item to the next to the consumer. Now by doing this acknowledged step, what we have ensured that all those discussions which happen with the store and the ward, that I sent 20 items but they have been 10, or those that I asked for 15 and they have sent only 20. Now we know very well that they have asked for 3 items, we have sent 2 and they have received. So my stock register, if I were to see, for all stores, or at least we can look for the 2 stores that we talked about, they show 1, 2, 3 items have been transferred from here to a Niku pharmacy. Let's look at just these 2 transactions. The opening stock was 151. I transferred from here, so transfer negative, so my stock came down, and my closing stock is 150. This I am seeing when I am at the pharmacy sales counter. If I am Niku pharmacy store, my opening stock was 5, I have a positive transfer, my closing stock has become 6. If we come down to the feeding bottle, which they had asked for 3, that is fine. They asked, disposable 2 cc syringe. They had asked for 2, they have sent 2 for the positive to minus 2. Right now the stock has gone up by 2 here and less by 2. Now this kind of transaction is for doing this a bit more. So what we are talking about is transfer. Say from the Niku pharmacy or from the pharmacy sales counter itself, we have stored this. So we are right now in pharmacy sales counter. The item which I am talking about is disposable syringe 2. The stock says that my stock should be 408 right now. You can see the stock is 408, batch number, expiry date is no. Sometimes if there are two batches of the same item, it will appear one below the other, and the one which is expiring first appears on the top. The moment I click this and put an enter, the stock has come, the rate has come. Say if I am selling 8 of this items to patients. What we are going to expect here is, based on that, the transactions in this pharmacy sales counter would on the other side. So, for example, this guy, we took 30 rupees part of it. That's okay. Now, if we go and look at the transactions, take only this or let me continue for all. So, just testing on this, and we'll talk a bit more about it. Just as we talked about the same, you can now see the sales code, the transaction just sold to the patient rate. Your opening stock was 410 beginning of the day. 2 were transferred out and hence stock became 408. 8 is sold out to the patient and hence the stock is 100. Opening stock value, closing stock value. Now say if the patient goes and returns out of the 8 that we sold, say patient says that I don't want 2 of them, or I've purchased unnecessary extra. In which case, the patient bill would appear for cash refund, and as you might have remembered for pharmacy billing, a refund note can be generated, a cash refund can be done, or if it's a credit bill, it can be set on a patient's account. So say we have made a return for 2, so how much amount has to be returned? Say right now let's say cash refund. To approve is something important, and that is how it will reflect on the cash flow also. Now what's also important here is that there is a small little column called already wanted. If I could say in pharmacy, one place where the most full-fledged or not improper processes are on this patient return element. More so in inpatient than for outpatient. In inpatient, what happens, we issue 20, 30 drugs to the patient for the stay of the patient. But at the point of discharge, now 8 or 10 of them are remaining unused. The patient wants them to be returned because that will impact his complete cycle bill. So those returns are done using these kind of, and by making sure there are 2 aspects which are happening. One, the billing part of it or the charge slip entries are reconciled with action. Second, by using this thing that stock is much more formally handled. Earlier in what was not the software is have, we used to adjust the patient's cash needs to make sure that the stock or the cash is matching, but the stock was not able to be reconciled because there are problems with batch number and all, and hence it used to create a dead stock in somewhere in the corner which pharmacists actually go out and sell it in the market. This kind of process gap is cleanly logged in when you are looking into this kind of software. So the opening stock was 410, 2 have been transferred, 8 have been issued to the patient. The patient returns 2. No prices progressing, the stock 2. The other issue which can happen with the similar ISS entries that we are saying could happen where you are issuing to the department. In which case, the sending unit could continue to say pharmacy counter, and you would be sending it say to cafeteria may not require disposable, but say labor room, they require disposable syringes. And search the item on 4 characters just like as we are doing earlier. And how much do they require is, it might be actually against the requisitions, it can create an issue. Or sometimes it may not be on an issue. So you can transfer say 20 as they might have asked for. Now what is going to happen is, since this is a department, it will not have a counterparty interaction. If you are transferring it to a store, there were two entries. There were the debit part of it, so your stock was going back, and there was a credit part of it. The stock was going up there. Here, there is no stock that is maintained in a department, and hence it is not expected to have two entries there. So right now, the only transaction we are seeing that out of this, there is a department issue of 20. Then go back to find out what is the stock, closing stock at 382. If you were to find out how much was issued to a department, there are specific reports. You can look from here. That show me all either from a store or from a typical or the vendor which has got the transaction. So that is one part of it. And similar to earlier, there can be a department report. That's an eye of it. The other, just like what we are doing for stock transactions. Let's spend a moment to what are the entries stock register. For the sake of simplicity, let it be for all stores. Take the one by then. What we can look at, so far we have talked about from a store, how does the material go out. It can go in terms of transfer, it can go in terms of a patient issue, it can go in terms of a patient department issue. The other two transactions which are important are stock adjustment and return to vendor. Stock adjustments are required if this item is not much for medicine, but disposable injections definitely. Here, a box of injections broke down, bottle of saline broke down. So someone has to make sure the stock reconciles in the phase. That's important in this kind of transaction. Let's spend a moment on that. And the other bit on the return to vendor is useful, especially if you're talking about the items which are going to expire. So we can return to vendor and manage the stock accordingly. Just as we are doing the items in terms of the issue part of it, in terms of the part of it, there's an item for DARN, which is items like which I told you can break it up. But continuing on the item, there are so many batch numbers, but this is the batch number which requires a stock, so the available stock is there are 5 stocks broken, 5 units. Another kind of transaction that you can have when you are returning it to vendor, this return to vendor can happen straight from pharmacy, not from the substrate. We'll talk about the transactions we have, the reverse entry. Let's spend a moment to talk about how the purchase order will look like. So if I were to say purchase a new item, typically a workflow may have been that you are for a particular vendor. For that vendor, you know what are the items. So the purchase order is not made for an item, but for a particular. So these vendors supply what are the items, what are the rates that is in, what was the last purchase price, And from here you can look for the item itself and look for that doesn't supply this. Alternatively, what you can do is, if you are making it for revenue, you have found it there. Alternatively, what you can do is you can search for an item. You don't want these items, but you want hospital stock. And it shows the hospital stock, it shows across all stores and sub-stores. It had a reorder level of 0, that's why the required quantity is by default calculated minus 6. But essentially say we need 100 of this item. Here you can find out what are the suppliers which appear from this item. So if you want to get say home pharmaceutical, you can order more items in the same scheme, there's a stock and all, and give it to the same vendor if you want. The vendor is not mapped, you may not be able to make a purchase order for that. Say this item, if I want to get it from, I don't have a vendor map to it. But say instead of home pharmaceuticals, all the items, these two I want to be picked up from IHS. What you might also notice that the last purchase price changed according to what are the rates that have been asked for. Same to the item wise, and this you can create based on reorder level as many as thousands of items you can add one below the other. The reorder quantity automatically gets calculated. Last month's consumption would come into picture, last purchase price. So how the stock will get. And when you create a PO, two different purchase orders, one for IHS and one for home pharma, would be created at this point of time. Let's look at the purchase order screen. When we come to the purchase order screen, you can there are two POs created, one for home pharma and one for IHS, based on the items that they have requested. Now this purchase order, you can add a few items that again beyond this I want some other items to buy. Say Accu-Chek strips, 20 of them. We have not supplied it earlier, so don't know the rate. You can put a rate there. You can look for possible hospital stock and all that. Just when you look at the purchase order, it gives you the VED analysis, taking analysis. If it is a desirable item, maybe if I am the CEO of the hospital, I may purchase right now. But if it is a essential or a vital item, I will still continue to purchase as soon as. But you'd also seen that based on last purchase price, the new rates have been automatically. So these are the items which we are looking at, and say at this point of time, if any modifications are required, we can say this item. Now the stock manager or the pharmacist send it for approval. These buttons are access control. Although I've logged in as an admin, so I have access. But essentially, when they send for approval, it's the CEO who will get this on his, and then he can approve it for sending it to the vendor. You can send it to the vendor through the email directly, or you can send a print out or something. Now, say the items are received. Now, when the items are received, there are two things which are required. One, a GRN may be required to a good receipt. At times, it may not carry the invoice number as well, so you can create a draft invoice also. Typically, two things are required here. One, you need a batch number, and you need the expiry date. But this build has lesser features. In fact, you can also get past batch numbers, past expiry dates pre-populated. If you click on the PO, you can find out the PO number and the details. So what are the rates? Let's quickly look to the columns that we have talked about. It talks about which rack you want to, and there are specific algorithms. What is the purchase price? What is the MRP? If there is a item discount, all the 4%, 12.5% taxes that happen on purchase item that you can look at it. The tax could be MRP, the tax could be on purchase price. The tax sometimes, most hospitals, this is where a lot of process leakage will happen when they handle free quantity. I have asked for 100, he has given 10 free. That is in which case we have to find out the rate, stock valuation will come down, our cost price will come down, although the price, the MRP will remain the same. So now instead of 100 that I have asked for, I'll get a stock of 100, 10 for this item, and all the rates and all are calculated. Put the invoice number. If you have a discount, you can look at the discount. And hereafter, what they do, they take a printout of the stock, go and verify whether actually my stock is the same as what is being shown by the system. Because just when you are delivering there itself, in my main store, right now in the main store, the opening stock was 0, I have got 110, my closing stock should be 10. So they can go and see the items are matched or not, and they can send the invoice for payment. The CO, okay, MRP is less than the CO, row number 2, which case the MRP needs certain modification. The MRP was less because change the MRP. It picked up from a data which was a random data from my side. So those checks the total amount is greater than the purchase order amount. So and these are the small checks that are required. And then it goes for pending for payment. Once you sign up for a payment, it can be approved for payment by the SADOP, then you can go and make a vendor number, owns pharmacy. When you go to the vendor payment screen, so if you go to the vendor transaction report, what you are going to see is a report which looks like this. How many transactions have happened with vendor at any time. And if you look for, say, a larger vendor or something like this, you can find out all the GRMs which have been taken by that for that vendor, all the amount that's paid for the spending. So any hospital reacts to this amount which have been paid to the patient vendor at any point of time. And if they are preparing one check, they all of them as. The other important thing is since the transactions happen, all these transactions happen to the main store. So right now, the main store at this hospital just receive the stock from the vendor and send it to the pharmacy sales counter. So now, if I'm sending it to the pharmacy counter just like earlier, this is now a transfer which is happening. Since I'll pick up it, say, one item there. So right now, if I have a stock of 110, I want to transfer, 110 was received from that vendor. Although there is no requested quantity, at times the transfer may happen without a request. You can create a draft of it and send as many other items to you. And send it to the store. Unless it's acknowledged by the sales counter, their stock will continue the old one, which counted by 11. Closing stock at the pharmacy sales counter at that point of time was 377. When they acknowledge, their stock goes up by 100, and this the stock from here will come down by 100 in that case. But logging using the pharmacy counter and then acknowledge it from their perspective. And then let's look at the transactions that we have got. See, what has happened is pharmacy, let's focus only on this portion. Pharmacy main store purchased 110, transferred 100, opening stock was 0, closing stock is 10. Come to the pharmacy stock store, they purchased, the opening stock was pharmacy sales counter. The opening, there are two batches of the items. One is this one is this one. The opening stock for this batch was 0. For this batch it was 410. They didn't purchase anything. They got a positive transfer of 100. And there is a negative transfer of 100 then and there for the acknowledgement and then sent. And the closing stock is 0. We talked about the pharmacy sales counter with this item. Their total stock has grown from 377 to 477 accordingly. Look at the item specific transactions. Look at the transaction like TRS, transactions like IFS, ISR, which is vendor returns, KR, RC, and then TRS. So now we have talked about multiple transaction types. Just show me all the variances that have happened, show me all the issues that have happened. So by bringing these kind of processes, we have a lot more discipline has brought into the stores and the sub-stores part of the software, and now we know how the stock is just moved at one point in time. The other bit is also important that you can explore for yourself are all the tax calculations are automatically done, and a consolidated VAT report which gets filed to the government directly, that gets generated based on the numbers that we have talked about. Say, okay, let's talk for this month itself. Actually, say, it will give you, it generates the tax filing based on numbers and all the departments run sales calculations and all based on that and the format which is by the government directly. So in the office they take the printout and tell exactly what is the VAT that they have to pay in terms of input tax, in terms of sales. So this is a very broad workflow that we wanted to share with you and talk through the entire material. I believe this should give you an idea of why and how the classification of materials, making sure that stocks are matched, making sure the budgets are matched, making sure are being controlled. It becomes a whole new ball game the moment you go into multi-site locations where the stock may be purchased or the main store may be Bangalore. but the sub-store may be in Ranchi. How do you ensure that the items are, the GRMs may be, or the purchase order may be done centrally, but the material receipts may happen separate? The vendor returns may happen centrally, but the department's return location happens. So there are quite a few flavors of multi-site transactions, software like SAP and all, which have been incorporated in the product, which are allowed. But broadly, this stuff takes to all the workflow that's required to expand the pharmacy. If you have any questions, please